Why do we see healings, conversions, and other fruit and manifestations of power sometimes from ministries that present questionable teaching? And so I want to talk about the possibilities here. This guy has presented something. What are the possibilities? Obviously, one possibility is the whole thing is totally demonic. It's a demonic false religion, and anything apparently supernatural is either a deception, it isn't really, or it's a supernatural expression of some demonic activity in their midst. That's one possibility. Two, it may be that the people he's dealing with actually have the truth. Even though he says that they're off in some areas, or they tend to err towards some certain direction, maybe he's wrong, maybe they're right, and maybe what he's observing in them is altogether genuine. Maybe he's right in that this is a situation where their doctrine is right in the core, but they're kind of off in some other places. Maybe some things we might say are more minor. And because they believe and they have faith, God does something there that he doesn't do in a lot of Reformed and Calvinistic groups, because Jesus doesn't do many mighty works in certain places because of unbelief. Maybe there's a whole lot of Calvinistic unbelief out there, and maybe some people that are in charismatic circles, maybe they have enough of the gospel where they've genuinely got saved, Pentecostal circles, and they have more faith than we have. Maybe. There's a possibility there. Now here's the thing. We're not there. What does Scripture tell us to do? What's that? Test the spirits. Where is that text found? 1 John 4. You should all know that. We're told to test the spirits. Okay, let me ask you this. What does that mean? Tell me what that means.
Weigh out their doctrine. Give me an example.
Weigh out their doctrine? Let me ask you this. If you came along and you found this church, and you found that, man, you start looking around and it's like, there's sexual immorality, there's fornication, there's adultery here. Man, these brothers are suing each other. They're off on the resurrection. You got people teaching weird doctrine here. And you got guys over there, they're speaking in tongues, and guys are prophesying. It's like you look at it and they're suing each other, and there's obviously a problem with the women in the church, and there's idolatry here, and there's division, and the rich people aren't waiting for the poor, and people are getting drunk at the Lord's Supper. What do you think? They're speaking in tongues. You think it's genuine? You think it's genuine? Test the spirits. What conclusion are you going to come to?
Well, I didn't know it was 1 Corinthians you think it's false.
Mike's got.
I was just thinking of Deuteronomy 13. 1 through 4, it says, if there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, by which he spoke to you, saying, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them. You shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you, to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul.
So clearly, if somebody is trying to move us away from worshiping the God of Scripture, But we would really need to know who the God of Scripture is. You know, just watch. Just think with me. I find, without exception, the devil attacks two things always. He attacks the person and work of Jesus Christ, and he attacks the Scriptures. Look at any movement, look at any church, look at whatever they profess to be or are. Look at what they say. Somebody will come along and say, what do you think about Seventh-day Adventists? What do you think about Seventh-day Baptists? What do you think about Church of Christ? What do you think about these different things? You know, there's all sorts of movements spring up in this group or that group. And just go right there. Every time. What do they believe about Jesus Christ? What do they believe about His work, His person? What do they believe about Scriptures? You examine them at that level, you will expose the devil every single time. He attacks those two things. He can't tolerate them. He hates them. You want to look for testing the spirits, what spirit this is of, and be very careful. In much of the false Pentecostal charismatic circles, the spirit in those religions exalts himself. The Spirit of Scripture exalts Christ. Make no mistake about it. That's what Jesus says. He will glorify me. And so that you want to look for that. The devil in the garden attacked the Word. You look at the error. You just think about like 1 John. And what's the error? It's they say the wrong thing about Christ. If you're looking for the Antichrist. So, if we're testing the spirits, listen. There is a large amount of unbelief in Reformed circles. I believe it with my whole heart. You can tell how much people really believe by what they're willing to trust God to do, how much they're willing to step out and trust Him.